1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4.
The chat you're about to hear was recorded in the small mountain town of Palombaro in the Abruzzo region of central Italy in late 2024. It presents migration from the perspective of someone, Josh Arnold, a super successful young American businessman and entrepreneur from Arizona, who has come to Italy looking for a better life. After an unexpected heart attack a few years ago, he started out on a series of explorations to see what else the world has to offer. A man who has basically everything except contentment. As it turns out, Italy is where he may have really struck it rich, and in a way that money can't buy, though it still helps. This is the Josh Arnold interview. Josh Arnold is a dramatically successful American entrepreneur from Arizona, where he runs 4 delicious sounding and highly popular Cajun-based cuisine restaurants. Though he started life humbly helping to raise pigs and copping, as we say in Australia, copping plenty of disciplinary whacks from his powerful grandfather. His was a pretty tough hands-on work experience-based introduction to life as the classical school of hard knocks. So, welcome to Josh.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, Josh. Completely unexpected to meet you recently, but it's been wonderful every time we've chatted.
Absolutely. It was so neat that these small introductions, even having a quiet lunch and you're going to meet such a unique character as yourself.
Yes, unique in not necessarily positive ways, but anyway. Could you tell us what is Cajun cooking?
So my restaurant, the Cajun Style, is basically a southern seafood-based cuisine that's mainly known throughout like Louisiana and parts of Texas, where basically you take, fresh seafood, you boil it in a really flavorful batch of, seasoning spices and juices, so you can get such an extremely powerful flavor from just the boil. And then after it's finished cooking, you actually smother it in even more flavor. You usually dip it in like a seasoned butter or, fresh lemons, fresh limes. Like, it's all about just an impactful, strong flavor of the South. But it's delicious.
It sounds to me like when you described it to me the other day too, and it's Cajun, Walter.
Cajun.
Ow, not Cajun. It sounds like a way of living rather than just a particular dish that you eat and then you forget about it. There's a whole set of cultural identities at work in those flavors.
100%. Yeah, actually, the whole idea of these seafood boils is kind of similar like the Italians do dinner. You do these things when you intend to have a huge amount of people over, because it does it's quite labor intensive to set up these cuisines, and you intend to have a whole bunch of people sitting around a table, and you basically will eat with your hands. You'll dump this food on the middle of a great big table. You'll sit there cracking food open and joking and enjoying the conversation.
So a bit like
Italy.
Italy, which is not so much the case in Australia. Although when we eat in a public space in Australia, I'm often struck by the fact that it's almost antisocial, because the acoustics are not properly designed, so it sounds like you're at a rock concert.
Right.
And at home, we have enormous distances between families. Certain people live, here, and the others live 20 kilometres away or whatever.
Right.
So we tend to have intimate family gatherings, not extended ones so much. But it sounds like in the States, a bit like Italy, when people go out to eat.
Well, just in my restaurant in particular, that's actually the culture we were trying to bring back to the restaurant. So when you normally in the States, when you go to like say a steakhouse and you see a mother and father and their couple kids dining, it's usually a pretty quiet experience. Or the kids get annoyed with the parents and just are on their phones the whole time, ignoring their parents across this table. and we wanted to basically make that impossible to do. So since you are basically eating with your hands and you're getting buttery, you're getting messy, like it's such a unique dining experience that you can't pick up your phone and be on your phone during the dining experience. So it's really cool to actually watch families reconnect with their kids over this dinner. And I think that's kind of what makes my restaurant a little bit more popular, is because the dining experience is turning back into like a family affair where you actually can sit down and connect with your family. Unlike other restaurants where you take your kids out, you really don't get that opportunity. So I think that builds that's actually what makes mine more popular for sure.
Yeah, and I was just thinking when you said that, I had a vision of McDonald's restaurants,
Back
which
in
are
the day.
supposed to be family friendly, but in fact, what they've done is create separate play areas for kids. So kids go outside, but they're like cats; they're locked up inside of a
Right.
run, and the parents eat on their own, or the kids come back out to eat, come back in to eat, and then go back out to play. So
yeah.
it doesn't really feel like a family experience, and there's something very sterile about their environments. And the food, it's junk food, so you eat it fast and you leave
Correct.
just as quickly. But yeah, I did know this thing about the cultural, almost humanistic purposes to your concept of a restaurant.
Yep, and I think if I could figure another cuisine that would be equally as, that would basically do the exact same thing, I would probably venture into other restaurants of that same concept, because that's literally what makes us popular, is the ability to have that family experience. And of course, the flavors don't hurt either. We have great flavors, but yeah, that's really what I think was the main catalyst of our growth.
And Cajun has to be sort of picante,
Yes.
hot.
Yeah, we actually we are known for basically the spiciest peppers in the world. So I mean, if you would like to challenge yourself and sweat during your meal, you can easily do that. Or we also have the mild, and every day.
Okay, there is. I can cope with the mild.
You can cope, yeah. Like we literally can, have 95-year-old enjoy a really light lunch, or we can have a 15-year-old kid trying to challenge himself and burn himself to the ground, trying to finish his meal. I do have a story that this father brought in his son, and he challenged him with a $100 bill. He popped out a $100 bill and put it on the table, and he says, "If you can eat this bag of seafood," he's like, "you can have that bill." And this kid was basically in tears trying to eat his bag of food, and he only made it about a quarter of the way through. And the dad was laughing. He grabbed the $100 bill and put it back in his wallet and put it back in his pocket. It was basically just trying to prove to his son that he wasn't as powerful as he thought he was.
And that's power plays, even at the comfort of a family eating table.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I suppose a lot of negotiations, powerful things have been achieved through eating contests, or eating at the table and making it into a contest.
Right.
Now, I was going to tell people that you've travelled to Italy, and you're not visiting here, you're scouting. You've bought a home, you've set up house in an extraordinary looking position, the most beautiful views I've seen in the Abruzzo, possibly in Italy. And you're getting ready maybe to invest in some exciting schemes, but that hopefully bring, in line with what you've done in the States, economic and cultural rewards to the locals.
Right. My main thing is I'm basically taking this trip to kind of analyze the area, see what's missing, but I don't want to be so impactful where I'm interfering with other people's economy. I really don't need the extra money, but I know I will end up being bored, because I just naturally get bored if I don't keep myself occupied. But I don't want to take away from somebody else's economy that's been here. Yeah. So I want to find the easiest way where I can touch and go and keep myself occupied without stirring up, any animosity with any of the locals.
And that's interesting. If you can accept considering yourself as a migrant, and that historically migrants, in Australia especially, we've often heard the argument of, for example, recently an ex-Prime Minister of the country, Tony Abbott, even had the temerity to say about Syrian refugees. He said, but we just can't accept them all, because how do we know that they're going to assimilate and integrate? So there's this idea that Australia is the product, and people have to know what the purpose of the product is, if they're going to add anything to it. But there's no notion that the product is there for them and that the product can dramatically change.
Right.
So it sounds to me like if you're a migrant, you're a new type of migrant, or possibly an old, centuries old type of migrant who goes somewhere to bring things rather than to take things, to gain things as well.
Right, I see that.
But to enrich what is already flourishing there.
Correct. Yeah, the one thing about this culture the reason why I fell in love with with the idea of Italy is literally how much more connected they are with their families here, and it's way different than in the States. Like these guys have such a warm and welcoming environment that why would I want to adjust that? There's a few things, of course, I find frustrating, with their eating times and stuff here.
Yes.
But I mean, that's their culture, and I have to assimilate to that style. I don't even know where I was actually going with this direction, but basically I don't want to change their culture. The reason why I moved here is because I wanted to enjoy their culture, and why would I want to come in and change any of that?
You're going to enhance something that is instinctive to you, and that is instinctive to the best of the Italians, which is understanding that life is not business, but there is such a thing as the business of living, which are the values that you bring as an individual to a community, and then the community shares its values back to you. And it's not that you assimilate into a community, or it's like the Blob with Steve McQueen. You disappear. So what happened to Josh? Oh, he looks so Italian these days, and he behaves like... No. He's become a hybrid. And the community is slowly becoming a hybrid as well. So humanity in this little microcosm is still evolving because of your contribution and the contributions of other Americans and Canadians and English people, even the Romanians who were coming up to a little while ago. That's what fascinates me, and then starts to change the idea of migranthood. And it reminds me of when the Roman Empire went out and conquered the world, and Romans were known for their military savagery,
right.
Take no prisoners. But then in time, the empire became a conduit back into Rome itself. And people could become, from the far reaches of the empire, if they were entrepreneurs and worked well to become part of the community of the Roman Empire, they could become Roman citizens.
Very interesting.
And I think post-World War II, that notion wasn't there. Migrants were seen as a labour force, and they had to behave themselves, like going to, Devil's Island in French Guiana, Right. You are here to be punished, and you will be punished until you obey our rules.
Very similar thing happens in the States as well with migrants. We get a lot of, especially in Arizona, we have a lot of Hispanic population from Mexico that moves up, and they've had the hardest time getting ahead because they are basically seen as a labor force.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter even if they had skills, it's just almost impossible for them to get, any great break. But of course, we also need that labor force, unfortunately. So it keeps everything moving.
But so do you feel that in America, you kind of jumped to one of the points that I'd been thinking about before I came here today? Do you think that in America, Trump hit a nerve, at least in his first tilt at the presidency, because there is still... there's something of that puritanical beginnings of the States, like the Puritans.
Correct.
The Pilgrim Fathers. I grew up thinking that they were, these poor escapees from persecution in England, and they weren't. They were just these fundamentalists who rejected a more sort of open society.
Correct.
And came to the new land to create a new Puritanism, fundamentalism.
Yes. And he really has struck a chord with that population, and pretty much has created such a divide between people that want more integration and people that are against it entirely. And I think that's what makes these last couple elections so powerful and so mind-numbing, I guess. Because if you are on one side, which I'm a pretty liberal individual, if you're on one side of this coin where you think, yes, I think everyone should be treated fairly, everyone is a human, and then you see this far other side, you just can't sit around and idly stand by and watch it happen. So it just causes so much anger and so much frustration between both sides. That's actually why I chose this particular time to come on vacation and move to Abruzzo for a few months just to get a disconnect from all that hatred that you feel in the States.
Yeah, which is what, when I was playing the guitar on the balcony at home here, and there were American and Canadians walking by, and with that kind of breezy facility that Americans have got to start up a conversation with somebody. Hey, man, I love that. Good on you, buddy. I'm a guitarist too, you know. Oh, fantastic, you know. Come on up and all that sort of stuff. I popped the question. I didn't know what else to say. I said, how are things in Trump land? No politico. The guy said. I thought, ooh, maybe he's a Trump supporter, or maybe he's just exhausted. He's battle weary, you know.
Could very well be, yeah.
So I just kind of, again, raised a little bit the idea that this friend of mine, Moreno in Australia, and I have been exploring for over a few podcasts of what is it that a migrant dreams of, a person who migrates, whatever their status is, whatever their success or failures, where they're coming from, their struggles or their achievements. What is it that they dream of when they go somewhere else? Fundamentally, to escape.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's exactly what I would say. My experience is I am actually coming here to escape.
Yeah.
You know, even though I have great success in the States and I'm very comfortable, I'm not really wanting for things. The thing I was missing the most was peace and serenity and beauty, really. I mean, this area that I moved to in Abruzzo is so green, so luscious, so mountainous. It takes me back to a simpler time, which I wish I could, you know, reproduce daily. So I think I'm mainly escaping the States for serenity, I would say.
That's a beautiful concept. And when you talked about building the infinity pool, that's
yes.
right. And I thought, oh, well, I'm going to come and walk on this. It's like Jesus on the water at this guy's pool, you know.
Absolutely. The thing that sold me is literally the view that I have. And
it's the most exceptional view I have ever seen.
It's amazing. I just can't even, every time I wake up in the morning and even not to be crude, but as I'm using the restroom in the morning, there's a big window that overlooks this view. And of course it's private because I'm on a hill, but I just sit there in awe every single time I look at it. So I can picture myself in the summer in that infinity pool, just staring out and enjoying a glass of wine and literally finding that serenity that I've been chasing for years.
Yeah, there's I think a few of us would miss you already if, you know, the news came back like, no, he's moved to Canada, he's found something in Alaska that's really better. I mean, I think this place, having lived partly in Rome and that, in the chaos of that city, it's wonderful, sure, but that serenity that I discovered here back in the 80s when I was studying, and I thought, I don't want to go all the way from one side of the peninsula to the other. Right. And then I thought, no, I better, because my fiance's relatives, okay, I'll go. And the generosity of spirit, they just made me part of the family straight away. And then, but you'd wait, because you get here late at night, and they've got a big steaming urn. It was winter, and you're in the old part of the village, and it's a bit ghostly and lonely, but it's warm. And then you wake up in the morning, on a winter's morning, and it's so crisp and glassy, and it's like a crystal world. I'm on another planet. And even walking up here, come up to where you are, I kept thinking, how can I capture this mountain that is almost making me cry? Right. Because it looks like the back of a bison or something. You know, I want to caress it. I said, I can't. I'm using this great camera I've got, and I can't express visually, and certainly not in words, the wonder of it. And when I've sent some pictures of the whole area around to people in Australia, or to my cousin Sylvia, who's travelling around with a couple of Australian friends, she said, "Oh, the ladies are just loving this. It's unbelievable."
You can't take a bad picture here. It's
no, you can't.
Every direction you take, you think, oh well, it can't be any prettier around the corner, and then you keep walking. You're like, wow. Yeah. And then the higher you go, and there's so many cute small villages on all these mountaintops that every time you go to one, you can't get bored of the view. It's just, there's a lot of the same look, but each city has its own culture and its own. It's It's unlike any other place I've ever visited, and I fell in love with it the first time I came.
Yeah, and I'm very familiar with a lot of the regions in Italy, not so much the very, very southern ones like Sicily or Calabria. But, I've just been struck by I've told them this for decades, that the Abruzzo is really unique, partly because it's not a very well-known tourist resort area.
For sure.
But the valleys, How Green Was My Valley is an old movie from the 50s.
Okay.
That has to do with Lassie, the dog.
Yep, I do remember that.
And it's a tearjerker, How green was my valley, which was how wonderful was my childhood. And this place embodies that. Now, it sounds like we're idolising it, but it has the same problems that everywhere else has, but it has the recuperative powers of a sanitarium without being in the sanitarium.
Right.
Because it's all the greenery, the nature, the world, the birds, and also the pace at which people live. And even if they're just saying buongiorno,
right.
And I like to add a few other words. Come sta oggi? Ah, bene. Lei come si sente? Bene, bene. Che bella giornata. And you start to have a conversation. And it pretty quickly becomes an authentic conversation.
For sure. These people do want to connect with you.
Yeah.
I did make the mistake on this trip without preparing. I didn't prepare myself to speak Italian this trip, which I regret now. But now I know the importance of learning Italian, because these people really do want to conversate with you and get to know you. Yeah. These villages are pretty small. I don't even know how many people are probably in this village.
Probably around 800.
Yeah, I was going to say,
spread
it's very small. But everybody in this village knows each other.
Yeah.
They know their name. They know kind of their occupation. They know their basics of everyone's life, which I find so unique. I live, in a really nice neighborhood in Arizona. I've only met one of my neighbors.
Same thing in Melbourne.
It's wild.
The best neighbours we had were they went back to South Australia, to the Barossa Valley, which is a winemaking region dominated by German migrants.
Australian wine Syrahs are amazing.
Are they?
Yeah, they're so so flavorful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't drink the wines because they're so heavy. It's like Australian beer.
Right.
People drink a bit of Australian beer and their stomach goes whoop. It's extended. They're a balloon floating off into the sky. I don't know how they manage it, but definitely, yes. Here, the people, as you said, they do want to connect, but it's that business. It's that point of they understand instinctively. You grow up knowing the point of the business of living, which is different from living for business.
Correct.
But then the second part of the proposition, living for business, it's that's what emerges at its strongest when you understand the business of living.
Yeah, these people focus definitely family first before work, for sure. And it's such a unique change because Americans, we're business driven daily. Yeah. So working is your number one, and then family falls in second if they're lucky enough to get a second place, But usually we live to work in the United States. So it was nice to see the exact opposite here.
And now for a musical interlude. The song you're about to hear an excerpt from is Lonely Star, written by Walter Musolino and Davide Musolino. You can hear the whole of the song at the end of today's podcast. Enjoy.
Crying on trains, well, it won't do. From Ivanhoe, I think of you. I forget your face, your fears, my tears. I do. See how your eyes' contrition was just a lie. From behind an arm you spy. And then nothing was worse than things unsaid. No, nothing. No, nothing. But distance is more than this far. Since you've become a lonely star. The talk we did with our guitar plays in my mind somewhere
So you're coming here to be changed.
Definitely
to be yourself, but to be...
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to...
Enhanced.
Kind of.
Enhanced the model.
I'm mainly looking to change my mentality, because I've always been an entrepreneur ever since I was a kid. My very, very first job, I worked on a pork farm, but my very, very first personal business I started when I was like 7. I started washing neighbors' cars, and and I literally had a little wagon. I put all the cleaners in, and all, and I would just walk up, and we lived in a small townhome community, and I would just sit there and ring everyone's doorbell and basically demand them that I wash their car.
That's a stroke of genius.
And it was great. We did it for bubblegum money, as you would say, or movie money. But I stepped, so I've always been money driven. And I think to turn that off would be a really neat thing. And I don't know if I'll actually be able to do it, because that would be a personal challenge of my own self, to turn that side of me off. But I'm hoping I can.
Well, maybe you're going to be like what utopian politicians understand is the importance of redistribution of land ownership in countries. So I don't know, just take the example of the Philippines. Return land to the people who've been working it for generations, and not give it over to government control, and then it gets sold off through bribes, to multinational companies.
Right, yeah.
As happened with, I think, Coca-Cola at one stage 30 years ago, where they bought the rights to own a river that was important for a whole series of towns.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And the people
Convoluted.
saying, we can't drink our own water, we can't wash in the river because this multinational company owns it, because some officials have been bribed.
Wow. That's when power corrupts.
Yeah, that's when profit is self-serving and there's no internal mechanism in the maker of the profit for profit redistribution through investment.
Right.
Yeah.
You're good.
Which comes back to enrich you and do that thing of not making you so driven for an outcome, but letting the outcomes come to you, and you're just sitting there. Natural way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that when you go back to the States and say, what the hell's happened?
Yeah, I definitely, that's why I said it was really important to me, if I do choose to become an entrepreneur I know I will end up becoming an entrepreneur in Abruzzo area, but to make sure that my impact isn't a negative one. That's going to be the main focus, to make sure I don't change the culture. Yeah.
Yeah, and people will see a new Josh, a better Josh, a fascinating Josh.
More relaxed Josh, that would be incredible.
Yeah, you don't have to be a Gordon Ramsay. I mean, Gordon Ramsay does it for, the TV. But then when you see him with Gino Da Campo or Fred Serieux, when they do, trips to Greece or trips to Italy or even trips to the States, they did. And they're competing with each other to make the best hamburger or the best, type of fish done with different sauces. And even Gordon Ramsay is laughing, and they're poking fun at each other. You realise, even in that trio of mates, they've discovered something that's greater than probably their careers, which have been pretty
successful, for sure.
Yeah, and they're like Gino Da Campo, who's built himself a beautiful house in Sardinia for his family, and his 2 sons are learning cooking, and his daughter too, and his wife, who's English, and then the wife's parents as well come. The outcomes become multifaceted and pluralistic. It's not just obsessive, it's expansive, and therefore, if it's expansive, it can't afford to be destructive, which is what becomes to the point of having just one goal. You eliminate everything else, and you crush all opposition, even opposition to your own well-being. I know, but I don't want to feel like this. I've got to concentrate until I have that heart attack, which you had.
Exactly. Yep. And
was that some kind of a motivator, a wake-up call, as they say?
It totally was. So yeah, as he said, a heart attack. I'm 43 now. I ended up having a heart attack at 34.
Yeah, getting early.
It's a little early for someone that should have one of those major life events, but that changed my entire path. Yeah, I went. I used to be an arms dealer. So I used to sell body armor, police uniforms, guns, all that stuff. But it was all government based jobs. So, but it was a very stressful job, and always trying to hit goals and expectations, and you know. As soon as I had the heart attack, though, I quit that career and I literally decompressed myself. I went back to something I enjoyed, which in my past I've always enjoyed bartending. So I actually went back to bartending at a local restaurant.
Oh, you're definitely a people person.
Yeah, and it gave me that freedom back to where I could literally just have a conversation with somebody, reconnect and, relax, where I wasn't taking work home with me. And unfortunately, that, of course, drove me into going back into the restaurant business and now owning them, which isn't the most stress-relieving job. Yeah. But it's at least something I enjoy.
And you know what?
Unlike something I didn't before.
And hopefully that you stay here, even if you can buy that other house just behind the church, which is even more spectacular than this one.
Right.
But this is like a 9 out of 10. It's just that's more like an 11 out of 10.
Correct, yeah.
However, I think that, that heart attack was a wake-up call. But when you described it to me yesterday, what you did, which was like, it was like Captain America. It was like Daredevil. Could you just describe the details? I mean, how you didn't die?
Yeah,
We are not talking to a victim here. This guy is not a victim.
No, I took it as a total change. But
sorry, you were like a genius inventor in that moment. I don't know how you did it.
Well, yeah. So basically, I'll even give you an example. I was actually in a hospital when I started having the symptoms of a heart attack. I was meeting with their head of security to try to sell them stab-proof vests to their security officers.
Stab-proof.
I guess it was luck of the draw. I ended up taking my assistant with me on this one trip, which normally she normally stayed back and made sure my orders were going out accordingly. But I brought her with me this time, and I started having these symptoms, and I went up to the director and said, "Hey, is there anyone you know that I could possibly see? Because I'm having these really odd chest pains." And they were quite painful. They were kind of rivaling up and down, up and down. And he said, "No, I don't really know anybody," which is surprising because I'm in a hospital. So I went to my assistant and I had her finish the meeting, and I basically scurried out as quickly as I could. So I ended up driving myself home, and it just kept getting worse and worse as I was getting closer to home. It started like locking up my arm and locking up my neck to where I couldn't even look out my mirrors to see if I was driving very well. But I got home, and thank goodness, out of an instinct, I grabbed a bottle of aspirin. I just threw probably half the bottle of aspirin in my mouth. I chewed it up and grabbed a 6-pack of beer, and I hopped in a hot bath. And they said that combination of the aspirin, the warm water, and the alcohol was able to loosen up, basically the muscle enough to relax to have it end. But basically, I had a snapping reaction when everything let loose, and I passed out in the bathtub. But wild experience, and definitely wouldn't want to do it again. Let's just say find an easier way of life.
But did you have? So this is obviously, you're not like a SEAL, are you? So you haven't been trained to do that.
No, it was just kind of...
So where did the knowledge come of doing that sequence of very important steps to save your own life?
I think in the back of my mind, I remembered someone saying that aspirin was good for people that have high blood pressure, and I'm thinking, well, the feeling I'm having is that my heart is going to explode. So I'm figuring there's a lot of pressure there. So I just I said, well, if this doesn't work, I'm going to end up dying here anyway, So...
And the hot water?
Hot water just so I felt better, I think, was the main thing. Because I was so locked up, like I couldn't turn my head or neck. So I think that was just for me to feel a bit of comfort in the moment. But it worked.
I'm staring here because I'm puzzled.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Italian concept of il destino. I suppose in English we'd use fate. But fate is more the outcome, and destino is more the process.
Yeah, it wasn't my time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating perplexity or clownish perplexity of life, that you say, okay, it wasn't your time to go, but how was it orchestrated not to be your time to go?
Yeah, that's. I think it was just literally a thing to say, hey, you're on the wrong path.
Yeah.
And it was a really big wake-up call for sure.
So it suggests, maybe I'm too prone to mystical interpretations, and I'm always living in the other dimension half the time, I'm listening to my parents and other dead people. I'm listening to my dog talking to me. And I've had lots of really interesting... I was telling my sister-in-law, the nun, confessing to her about visionary experiences I've had since I was 4 years old, and with this sense of being a healer.
Oh, wow.
Which I've tried to resist.
Well, that's probably your true path then.
Yeah, but since leaving the university sector and not knowing what I was going to do, but then going back to music and thinking, oh, but why? Why am I going back to music? I can play a guitar or the piano whenever I want. I don't really have ambitions to be a celebrity. I'm really too old to be embarking on that as a serious career. And what the hell am I doing? And why do people enjoy what I'm doing? And when I've been in therapy, especially with the women psychiatrists and psychologists, and they ask you, who do you think you are? And you tell them. And they go, yeah.
I can see that, yeah.
They say, there's an aura about you. I'll say, oh, come on. Where's my wallet? Oh, my God, where's my wallet? My watch is gone. So there's an aura. I said, can I see it in the mirror? They say, I don't know, but we can see it, you know.
You can feel it probably, yeah. You are definitely a very welcoming, comfortable person to be around.
Yeah.
That's something I noticed right away, and rarely can you be so relaxed around someone you meet so short a period of time. It
comes from a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
You know, where I've been broken and I've been put back together.
No, you built yourself back together.
Yeah, and then in the process I learned to do what you did, but not because I've somehow discovered the genius of it. It's from rereading notes that I took, things that I was told to do, you know, and I've practiced them to get to this point here. And that's why I can walk up a hill here and look at that mountain every time and I want to cry. And I want to say thank you to somebody. I want to do something silly like rush up the hill to Josh's place and embrace Josh. Say, Josh, just me talking to the mountain again. Say, okay, buddy, just sit down. I'll get you a glass of water. And it's beautiful.
Well, it's nice of you to share that with people, you know.
Yeah.
Most people, you know, aren't as lucky as you to have the gift of gab, as so to speak.
And you have it.
Right. But you make it very comfortable for people, and I think that's your gift you're giving back every day. So.
Yeah, and that's what I find here with these people. Now, my last question was going to be, maybe it's not the last question. The second last question is, how did you hit upon Italy and not Spain, not Greece, you know, these other Mediterranean, or even Morocco, you know,
right.
like that?
Well, we did, I kind of just... It was a really random thing, believe it or not. I've never been on vacations really. I've always been working, and that was something my partner Philip always hounded me about. Is we never go anywhere. And it's because I'm afraid to go too long.
Yes, because you take home with you wherever you go.
Yep. And so I've never taken us on really nice vacations, even though we had the means to do so. And suddenly I said, you know what? I am missing out on other cultures and other experiences. I'm so closed-minded just in the United States that I told him just to literally pick a place that he wanted to see, and he chose Greece. So we went to Greece first.
Okay.
And so we went to Greece, and we had a great time. It's very beautiful. But what I found is I didn't connect with the locals very well. Like they don't really love tourists.
Yeah.
You know, because I can see that. You know, it's 98% of their GDP is tourism. So you can see they kind of had an animosity, kind of like the French do, about tourists. So even though it was very beautiful, we had a great time. We decided it didn't really connect with us. So then I said, hey, okay, next year, plan another big trip, pick another place. Okay. And he picked another place, and it ended up being here. And it wasn't this region. We ended up, of course, landing in Rome, because everyone lands pretty much in Rome. We were in Rome for a couple days, and I said, you know what? I don't like this much hustle and bustle.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, yes. The culture is, beautiful, and there's great sights to see. Yeah. But within 2 days, I said, and we had booked our trip for 3 weeks.
It's a take no prisoners sort of reality.
So, and we booked our trip for 3 weeks to plan to stay in like the Rome area and just kind of go to the beach and and I said, no. I said, let's just get a car and do a little road trip. So we ended up hopping in the car, and we picked up a few random small towns to stop at and booked some Airbnbs throughout the valley. We ended up on the other side of the mountain in Simona.
Ah, yes, Simona.
Very well known as far as a lot of tourists are living there. as well, but I didn't connect with that city as much either. So I came on this side of the mountain and I stopped at Casoli, which is just, I can literally see it from my balcony, which is probably the city I wanted to land in. But this was close enough, and I just loved the culture here. They're very laid back. It's definitely not economy driven, and I was like, wow, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want my retirement to look like. So then I did an impulsive thing and literally just bought a house. And I told them, at least now if we take a vacation, we can go see other parts of the world, but at least we have another vacation spot that we know we enjoyed. So that's how we ended up in Abruzzo.
Yeah.
Just a random act of, deciding Rome wasn't for us and getting in a car and driving around Italy.
I think, as Humphrey Bogart says at the end of Casablanca, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship between you, Philip, and this place.
Right.
You'll do things here that will contribute to the community, and they'll probably erect a statue to you. But
that would be an amazing.
Yeah. I mean, just
now you set a new goal for me, huh?
Yeah.
There you
go. Just in the few days that I've been mentioning you to people and setting up the introductions and that, and I've been telling them, now listen, get your asses off the ground, off the seats, and really get into it. And I was speaking about this again last night to Rocco, the deputy mayor, and to Mimo and to his son Antonio, and to others. I said, because these opportunities arise, and it's like riding the waves. Yeah, there'll be another wave, in 10 years, 15 years' time. But this is the wave that's here now, and I may not be here again. And Josh then may not be here again. And then you'll all be going back into your sort of understandably complaining mode about the difficulties of being in the European Union and paying lots of taxes and that. And there's corruption everywhere, but there is in Australia, there is in the States.
The taxes here, though, are still way less than they are in the States.
Yeah.
So
Our people are just whinges. In Australia, I think we're in one of the least taxed countries, and people complain about paying taxes. But then they complain about the standard of the hospitals and the levels of government school funding. Where do you think the money comes from?
Right, yeah, it doesn't just appear.
Yeah, so I think great things can happen here, and it's coincided, and I don't know why. I always turn up in places where things are about to happen. I just,
Instinctively, you're just pulled here.
I just dump the fertilizer and then
there you go, and watch it grow.
Then watch it grow.
There you go. That's how you should treat the land anyway. Give it the nutrients it needs, and you'll be surprised at the outcome.
That's right. Yeah. So, and Rocco has already set up an association, a musical association composed of Americans, Canadians, English, to start producing little concerts, ongoing events here, which will draw other people.
For sure. Yeah, it's important. They do a lot of those festivals around these small towns, and most people wouldn't have even, went to visit that town if it wasn't for a little festival.
No.
But once they go, you get entrenched in the culture here.
That's right, you do. So your history of exploration and adventure, the entrepreneurship showing up also in trying different countries, but being open to Phil's suggestions too, rather than being the obsessive Spartan-like King Leonidas. I'm the leader here. You will follow me because look at all the success. Oh my God, my life is falling apart. Help me.
I rule with an iron fist at home, and then I let him enjoy himself in other ways.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of my way of letting go.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think I enjoy the trip better if I don't know what I'm going to experience.
Yeah, and I think you there's more chance of finding your true destiny. People think, no, you've got to control everything and guide everything. Yeah, but sometimes, when you push shit uphill and you get it up that hill, if you stop for a moment, and why isn't anybody standing near you? Because you're covered in shit and it smells pretty bloody awful.
Right.
And you're thinking, but I wanted all those people to be with me. I've done it. Why aren't they? Yeah, well, maybe stop and listen to them. Say, hey, let's have a shower before. Maybe let's not push shit uphill. Let's just drive up the hill.
Yeah, could have made it a lot easier.
Drive up the hill. Okay. But life has to be hard work. It has to be a battle. And you go, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't. No, it's about, you can set your own goals and you can set them as high as you want to go, but you should also be okay with failure,
Yeah.
And that's probably the lesson. One of the lessons I've learned in business is you shouldn't force something to happen. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen pretty naturally.
So that's probably another difference, I suppose, in the migration profile that I'm getting of you, the migrant, because, okay, you've got money and all of that, but even Italians who didn't have money but have made a little bit of money and could have come back, and some have come back to Italy from Australia, and that, they still often endured living over in the foreign country that they couldn't quite become a part of, instead of maybe coming back here and having another go at things when, it's no longer post-World War II.
Right.
It's the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, But then again, you're finding that young Italians coming out now to Australia and setting up restaurants and small businesses like that, mainly in the hospitality area. They've got master's degrees in business, they're architects, and they're whinging about the country, and I think it's as though they haven't really fully explored their own country. They've rejected it, but they've found a new kind of prison.
Yeah, I think the issue with the young Italians here, because there are a lot of them just leaving this country in droves, unfortunately, and it's causing such a pause in their economic growth here in the state or in this country. That if they did, gosh, now I forgot what point I was going for, but basically if they would have taken that same effort and put it into this country and made it just as beautiful as where they're moving to. But there isn't very many opportunities at the moment, and that's what they complain about. But they could have used that same energy and made the opportunities here.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of an odd thing, like they got their free education and they're chasing dollars elsewhere when they could have just created them here at home. Yeah,
it's as though their upbringing has made them inflexible. So it's either something that they expected it to be, and if it's not what they want, then they leave.
Right.
So, okay, well, maybe just take, as you've been
take
suggesting with your life,
take
a moment and reflect on it.
Right.
And like Mimmo, my wife's cousin's son, Antonio, he did social work in Bologna, and he worked as a social worker for a number of years on government subsidised projects. But once those projects reached completion, funding would run out. So he came back here to do something that he didn't originally intend to. He wanted to live in the big city rather than the town.
Right.
And now he's got a little, 8-month-old, beautiful baby doll of a boy that's been born. He's taken over his father's place in now what appears to be Italy's number one pasta company, De Cecco, and he's won last year the award for the most successful salesman of the year, bringing new clients to the company. And he wheels and deals, and that spirit that he's always had has finally found its place in this community that he tried to leave.
So hard tried to leave, yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, or if you're trying to force something and push so hard that if you just let go and relaxed, it just naturally came to him. So. And
how you see reality, life, perception. It's all about perception.
For sure, and I'm glad he found his own happiness here.
Oh yeah,
because ultimately now he's around family and he can enjoy so much more of life that he thought he was trying to escape.
That's right. Hey Josh, this has been wonderful for me.
I appreciate you.
I'm going to bring it to a conclusion, and we'll work back home on editing this very 46-minute
very long chat. Yeah,
it was a very long chat, but I think we've discovered we could chat till
right. We could probably make this a 3-hour one.
Time. Yeah. Okay. Look, thanks very much to Josh, Arnold, and if you're in Arizona, you've got to try some of those. What's the name of the restaurants?
It's called Angry Crab Shack.
Oh my God!
And of course, the crab is angry because you're dropping him in a hot pot of boiling water. But
yeah, do they scream?
No, they don't. It's a very it's the saddest part of our job is literally doing that, but they do taste delicious.
Yeah, and so you don't see any a la Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2, I think, where he gives the thumbs up as he descends himself into a vat of acid
Oh, geez.
to
Yeah.
try and destroy himself. It was a very emotional moment, you know.
Right. No, you definitely don't see any of that.
No, they just, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a sad thing too. Thank you, Josh. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you as well.
Crying on trains, well, it won't do. From Ivanhoe, I think of you. I forget your face, your fears, my tears. I do. See how your eyes' contrition was just a lie. From behind an arm you spy. And then nothing was worse than things unsaid. No, nothing. No, nothing. But distance is more than this far. Since you've become a lonely star. The talk we did with our guitar plays in my mind somewhere on Mars. You lonely star, you lonely star. On trains that cut through sunlit days, I travel dreaming just this way. See North Melbourne's canal, roads like trees that fell. So swell, so swell. Those scenes of films of far away. Illusions of a runaway. People I know just had to go, 'cause we were nothing. It was nothing. But distance is more than this far. Since you've become a lonely star. The talk we did with our guitars plays in my mind somewhere on Mars. You lonely star, you lonely star.
We're still go, altitude 27,000 feet.